What's up, guys? Kyle here again today. I feel like talking about gear. Do you guys feel like talking about gear? I kind of like gear. So let's talk about some gear. The gear that I want to talk about today are modded Marshalls. As you guys probably know, because I talk about it incessantly, I started out on PV gear and played PV for a long time until I kind of got into the modded Marshall scene. My first step into Marshall territory was a JCM 2000. I had the 50 watt DSL and I actually really liked it. And I subsequently got a JCM 900 SLX, which I also really liked. But they were both kind of missing a little something. They weren't super tight in the low end, or they didn't have a big enough low end, or with the JCM 2000, the deep switch, I couldn't dial it in the way that I liked it the best. There just wasn't enough control there. So I started looking at modded Marshall circuits. This is probably early 2017. And the first one that I ended up picking up was actually a Friedman JJ100. So I kind of took a big step and just jumped right into the deep end. Picked up the Friedman JJ100. There was a lot of hype around Friedman at the time. Nobody really had his amps in my area, so you didn't really know what they sounded like in person, you know what I mean? There were some videos and stuff up. I mean, obviously his company's blowing up and everything, but there just wasn't that much out there at the time, especially for like thrash metal and stuff like that. So anyways, I took a leap of faith, played a Runt 50 in my local music store, World of Music, and really liked the Runt with a boost in front of it. So I ordered the JJ100, thinking that the BE channel on that would be similar. Now, I don't know if it was my particular one or what, but when I got it, I was pretty disappointed. It didn't seem to have the aggression, for one. It was kind of thick and dark, which I was kind of expecting, you know what I mean? Being a Jerry Cantrell signature model, he kind of likes a darker, thicker tone, and that's cool. But like the BE boosted chin was really why I got the amp, why I was interested in it. I got a good deal on it, so I grabbed it. And it was just kind of not very aggressive. I couldn't dial it in the way I liked. The mids were a little bit too tame. I just couldn't get it where I wanted. It didn't have a big low end punch, you know. So anyways, right after that, I ended up getting a Splawn quick rod, 2015 with the B Plus mod. And that thing just changed my life. I mean, I've already talked about those things a few times on this channel, but the quick rod is definitely, it's become my #1 amp. Not that one particularly anymore, because I actually sold it once I got an early pro stock, but it's still the same circuit or similar circuit, you know what I mean? So yeah, the quick rod was everything that I wanted out of the Friedman that it didn't have. It was dry and punchy, super huge low end, which I loved. That just, it was super percussive. Lots of articulation, which the Friedman had good articulation. The Friedman was tight. It was tighter than a Marshall, but it just didn't have that low end punch. And the Friedman sounded big, like a pre-recorded tone is how I describe Friedmans a lot of the time, like this perfectly engineered recorded tone. They sound great, don't get me wrong, they're just not necessarily my flavor for the most part, but the Splawn was just raw, aggressive. It reminded me of some of the 800s that I had, but it had fixed everything that I wanted fixed on an 800. So yeah, that was kind of my second amp, and is kind of what kept me in the Splawn camp for, you know, to this day. I still use them, they're my main amps. After that, I ended up getting a Ceriatone Chupacabra, which is kind of Ceriatone's take on some of the Jose mods. Little did I know when I got it, it had been modified again by somebody else, and I didn't know that. And I was never quite happy with it. It didn't take a boost well, and I ended up selling it to Derrick, the other guitarist in Bushido code, which, by the way, guys, if you could do me a favor, go down below to the description, go to his YouTube channel, hit like and subscribe on his YouTube channel. He's posting up a bunch of cool demos. We're going to do some collaborative videos with playthroughs and our rig rundowns and all that stuff. So please go over to his page, like and subscribe. He's a killer player. I think you're going to love what he has to offer. So anyways, yeah, I sold the Chupacabra to Derrick, and he had it checked out by our tech, Mike, and Mike found out it was modded. He fixed it all up, and now it sounds awesome. But not too long after I got the Chupacabra, I got the Yeti 50, which is a very similar circuit, but it does have some distinct changes. It's supposed to be a little more aggressive. I'm losing you guys here. supposed to be a little bit more aggressive. And I found that it's supposed to be tighter in the low end. I definitely found that too. I really liked the Yeti. The only reason I ended up selling it is because I had a huge gear sale off at the beginning of this year once I bought this car, because I paid for it mostly in cash and just wanted to get rid of some gear to kind of get my money back. But anyways, so I sold that amp. I'll probably have another one at some point. The Ceriatone stuff is great. If you don't know about it, it's made in Malaysia, but it's all hand wired, all point to point. Using absolutely excellent components, and you can kind of custom order anything you want from Nick. He does a great job in basically meeting, you know, everybody's very particular wants and needs. He'll even take pictures for you and send them to you, but I believe he charges a fee because people were being kind of annoying about that, and I don't blame the dude. So yeah, anyways, I mean, he's coming out with a whole bunch of circuits that are kind of his take on a lot of popular circuits, and I'm hearing nothing but great things about everything he's putting out. So I want to pick up a molecular soon, I think, and then also been very curious about the Gargoyle, which is a Ford and Meshuggah type amp. But anyways, yeah, he has a ton of offerings, so definitely check out Ceriatone for the modded Marshall stuff. Trying to think of what else I had. I just recently got a Monomyth modded 2204 Ceriatone clone. Monomyth is he's basically just a small-time modder guy who's picking up a lot of steam because his mods sound really good. Originally he was modding amps for people, and then he ended up just saying, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to find donor amps, I'm going to mod them, and then I'm going to sell them, which I think is a great idea, because people can be a pain to deal with, and if you're not looking to do this on a huge level, it's easier to just mod it and sell it like that. But anyways, the one I got has the Black Sun and Thunder mods. Really thickens up the tone, kind of lowers the mid spike, adds some just really gnarly saturation and everything to it. Really nice low end growl, tightens the amp up significantly, and the Black Sun mod, you can kind of dial it in. He puts a pot with it, so you can kind of increase the lows and low mids as you dial it up and thicken the amp up even more. So I think his mods are kind of inspired by Bill Kelleher, at least those two, or the Thunder is, I know for sure. The Black Sun obviously would be Soundgarden, but yeah, they play nice together. You can turn both mods on at the same time and they interact really nicely. Yeah, so I'm really happy with that amp so far. I'm going to be putting up a couple more demos on that one as well. Trying to think if I've had anything else modded Marshall-wise. To add to the Friedman stuff, I've got a Friedman Runt 50, and I also have a BE50 Deluxe at my disposal, and I had a Butter Slacks for a short while. Butter Slacks was cool, but it was pretty similar to the JJ and kind of shared a lot of the traits that I didn't like about it, although it did fix the low end issues that I had. It definitely has a nice thump. The BE50 is probably my favorite of the flagships that I've tried from Friedman so far. It seems to do a good job of what I want it to do, which is be more aggressive, be a little tighter, have more control over the low end, have a little bit more control over the mids. So the BE50 has been my favorite so far, other than the Runt 50, the cheapest big, or I guess the cheapest amp with big glass in it, because it comes with EL34s and not EL84s like some of the smaller 20-watt Friedmans. That's my favorite, man. That thing is just raw. It's mean. It gets plenty of saturation with a good boost. It's perfect for thrash metal and stuff like that. So I think that one's a little overlooked in the Friedman lineup, but it's a great amp, no doubt. But yeah, that's pretty much my experience with Friedman. Oh, Bogners. I'm an idiot. Yeah, so I have a Bogner Helios Eclipse. It's actually really cool. I put it up for sale for a while just because of the sheer value of the thing, man. It's tough for me to have what I have into that amp. You know, they're over $3,300 new. I didn't pay that for it, but anyways, it's a super raw, very kind of vintage accurate 3-channel modded Marshall type thing, with channel 1 being clean, channel 2 being kind of like your 80s, but like each channel has an era switch, kind of like the Ceriatone. Actually, it's similar to that. But and then channel 3 can get super modern. The Eclipse mode is pretty much unusable on there, but when you flip it into 80s mode, you can get plenty of gain with a boost on that, but it stays raw, super tight, nice punchy low end. Really like that. And I also have a Bogner Shiva 20th anniversary, which I bought to try. Not a huge fan of that one. The low end just doesn't, it's not tight, it's not punchy, it's kind of not really mushy, but it's just like undefined. It doesn't really punch, it's just kind of there. And it kind of suffers from some of the same problems that I thought the Friedman did for my taste, which is the mids aren't really in the right spot for what I like, and it can get ice picky when you try to dial up the presence to give the amp a little bit more sizzle. But again, that's just my experience. That's how it sits, you know, in my ear. But anyways, yeah, those are my modern Marshall takes, guys. I mean, Splawn will probably be my #1 for a long time. Ceriatone, I will order amps from those guys again because, you know, they do awesome work. And they have a lot of cool models coming out. Like I said, I urge you to check out both companies. They're both great. Great to work with. Scott Splawn, you know, humors me every time I hit him up. He responds to me right away. Super nice guy to deal with. Will basically tell me straight up whether what I want is, you know, realistic or not, whether he can do it, turnaround times, all that. I haven't dealt with Nick directly yet, though I talked to him on Facebook here and there. He seems like a great guy to deal with too. So yeah, I highly suggest checking out both of those companies, especially because both those amps are going to be half the price of a new Friedman or Bogner, and they're just as high quality in my opinion. I know that the Splawn stuff is not hand wired. It's kind of on a circuit board, but it's still good quality construction, good components, everything. So I think he just does that because most of his amps or his circuits are not really moddable. You know what I mean? Like he has them set where he wants them, and he just does that, and it makes it easier. He's a one-man show, so I totally get that. But anyways, yeah, thanks guys. Like I said, please go and check Derrick's channel out. I put Bushido Code Spotify links for our first 2 EPs in the bottom of every video, so I'd appreciate it if you guys could check those out. But yeah, like and subscribe here if you want to see more content like this. I'm going to have some more amp demos coming up in the near future. So we'll see you guys then. Later.